Hello and welcome to That's Real Speaks. Today is Saturday, November 22nd. I am Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. My pronouns are she, her, they, them. Thanks for coming over. I know you're busy. I know you're busy, but if you're in the US and you do the Thanksgiving things, I know you're super busy. I had one of those weeks where I was so focused on getting my update done and getting it shipped out. Thank you to everyone who placed an order. There are still a few bags in the shop, and I'll have another update on December 1st. But I was so focused on getting that together and being pretty anxious about the fact that I had bought too much fabric. And I just kept thinking, as soon as it's over, you're just gonna have a good little break. You're just have a great little break as soon as it's over. And then I got everything shipped out, I took a day just to sort of recoup one of my weekends. It was really lovely. And then the next day I began to hyperventilate over the things I need to do. I don't host Thanksgiving here. I don't even make food for Thanksgiving because my mom makes enough food for 84 people when there are 6 people. But it's just one of those things, right? Where you're like, oh, I'll do that thing. I'll do that when that gets done. And then you're like, oh, darn. I done it again, as the ladies on Text Me Back would say. I'm very rosy cheeked because I came upstairs to record and there was light directly. We're getting closer to the solstice and it's a little bit harder to sort of figure out where the light is going to be. There's a narrower window of when I can record. And so I was like, oh, that light, that's going to be a problem. I'll just lie down and read this book of essays I got. I'll just read a couple essays. And then by the time I'm done with that, they'll probably have shifted enough. Because it was pretty close to being, who just fell asleep for 2 hours. I bet you knew where that story was going. I can't write a thriller, y'all. There's no plot twist here. She fell asleep. And she's not angry about it, to be quite frank. So I'm a little bit extra rosy cheeked because I just woke up. Oh, and somebody might ask, this is the craziest vest on earth. A few years ago, Patagonia started really hyping their teddy bear, that really extra, the high pile fleece. And I can't have one of those. Well, because A, Patagonia does not make things in my size. And also, I can't have that high pile fleece because my life is 94% string. And I can just see all of that string getting into that and matting. And the thought of it really tweaks me out even. So I know the reality of it would be so much worse. So I don't know why that was equivocated to this in my brain. My partner's randomly coming upstairs. Okay, that was my partner telling me that we're having friends over in 45 minutes that I did not know were coming. And you know what? Normally I would have been sent to the moon with anxiety, but luckily I was asleep. And so I'm just content enough in my body and in this moment to not lose my mind. Where are we at? I have no idea. And now there's a time crunch to get us done, so I guess I'll just start talking. Okay. Oh my goodness, y'all. So this week's episode will have some cross stitching. It'll have a little bit of knitting, and then yeah, Yeah. Oh, I was doing the like Thanksgiving. Okay. I realized I had so many things to do that I had put off, and that like, well, the kiddo is coming home and they're bringing a friend for the Thanksgiving weekend. And so, I don't know if any of y'all have a college student or just somebody who's not in the house that often. We only have 2 bedrooms in this house. We have a fairly small house for the US. We have a huge apartment for Russia. Enormous. So, but anyway, like the child's room just sort of like collects things, like like the spare room in a house. Except that then the child does come home occasionally, and then I look at that room and go, oh crud. I have to figure out what to do with all that stuff that I didn't have the bandwidth to figure out what to do with. And now I've got to have the collective bandwidth of like the last 2 months in the next week. So I have been on the like existential, why am I the worst? Like, why am I the most overly consumptive human on earth train? And I'm not. I have never made my own rocket and flown it outside of the earth. That wasn't right, but you know what I meant. Again, I just woke up. Hush. I'm putting this together as we go. I don't know if you noticed. Oh, no, that's actually not what I was talking about. But I have been on that train. I hate that train, by the way. Do you get on that train? I hate it. You would think the amount of distress it gives me to have too much stuff would be enough to keep me from buying additional stuff, but somehow it is not. The train, the tracks, they need to have like an off-ramp, but they don't. Do y'all get the off-ramp to be like, no, I have too much stuff makes me stressed out, I only need to buy things, I'm not going to go down that track, I'm going to go down this track. But like the switch for mine is actually after the intersection, right? Like the switch should be before the intersection. Like it should be for the place where you decide which direction to go. The switch should be back here, but my switch is like way out there. And like I need to figure out a way to rig a connection to that switch. But anyway, so I was really excited about those Patagonia vests that I couldn't have. And like they just started getting like more and more retro. Like they got like weird color block things happening. They just started to like give me like, I don't know. Somehow though, that equivocated to making a really crazy crocheted vest that would operate the same, and that it would be like a zipper vest with a little bit of the stand up. And so this is what happened. And it's insane. And the whole time I was making it, I was like, this is kind of crazy. But you know what? I love it. Y'all, I know crochet is not for everybody, but really, I really used to think, as a kid who learned to crochet before she learned to knit, I really believed deeply that crochet was not for me in terms of a garment. Okay, I just believed that deeply. I, however, in my current self, my 47-year-old self, has found crochet to be very enjoyable in garments. Like this thing, and then I have like a granny stripe cardigan that's fingering weight. This is DK weight, and it's just like all scrappy, right? But there's something like, right, like the reason I didn't think I liked them for garments is because they don't stretch as much. But that's also why they're great for some garments. Do you know what I mean? Like when you don't want to have to worry about like catching it on something, or like you just want it to like, I don't know how to explain it because that doesn't really make sense, because my fingering one like literally has holes in it. It could catch on something. There's something that just feels sturdier about them and feels more like, yeah, I mean, hi. That's why that Afghan that your mamaw made 85 years ago still looks brand new. I mean, part of that's probably because it was acrylic. I'm not lying. But part of it's because that crochet is just like, yeah. So sometimes that actually does work for me. Not always, but sometimes. But did I ever start to say that don't ask me what pattern is because there isn't one? But the texture is called the granny spike. The granny spike. And it's very fun to crochet. Okay, so I guess I should actually talk about the things we're supposed to talk about. Okay, so in cross stitch, I have finished a project, right? It's really like just a big deal when you finish a cross stitch project, y'all, because they are not the speediest of things available to human beings. Okay, so I worked on the Poison Apple Tree, which is a pattern by Jessica, excuse me. Oh my God, I should do it again. Jessica Doize, D-O-I-Z-E. D-O-I-Z-E. And so here is my finished project. Well, I mean, I guess it's not finished. What was it? It's a block away, right? Like it needs to be steamed. It needs to be mounted in some fashion. But maybe not. Maybe it just needs to be a thing I enjoyed making and then can live full. When I first started cross stitching again, I would see people who were like, oh, I just put a bunch of stuff to be finished and like this one is like 10 years old. And I was like, how on earth did you just leave that precious piece of cloth somewhere for 10 years? Well, obviously I've not left anything there for 10 years, but I get it now. I totally get it. It is about the joy of doing the thing for me. Again, much like the knitting, it is more about the joy of doing the thing than the actual thing at the end of the road. So, but isn't this just like such a fun and unusual color combination? And then you get the combination of like, sort of like, you get the cat silhouette. You get like sort of like a very illustratory sort of take on what a tree is. And then you get these fun geometric repeating things that are happening. And they're just like all integrated in this very interesting way to me. Very enjoyable. So I think mine is on 32 count. I think the pattern is written or stitched, the sample stitched on 36. But I did mine 32, 2/2, and I really like the way it turned out. Yeah, super fun. And then I have also started, I have also started a new project. Oh, and the threads are all DMC and they're all the called for threads. I've also started a new project. I've made amazing progress on it. If you've not been with me, that's a clue that I have 2 stitches done. This one is random, but Stacy Nash has this design called Swans a Swimming Badge. What? Why do I find this really, really charming? I'm not entirely sure. I'll be completely honest with you. But I did. And I continue to. I find it very charming. So I have started stitching this. The sample was stitched on, I think, 40 count. Oh no, 36 count Needle Bling linen by Broomgrass. And it is worked with Weeks Dye Works threads. Y'all, I have lost my dang mind. Here's the color palette. It's very simple. I mean, as you can imagine, it's a small wearable brooch. There's not going to likely be a ton of colors in it. There are, in fact, what, 5? Yes. So yes, that's the palette. I have started stitching this on 46 count. My friend Sarah, another crafty girl, she always stitches really tiny. And I'm like, I've just always been like, how? But how? How, eyeballs? But for some reason, I have been working on my Hawk Run Hollow, which is on 40 count, and I've been finding it much easier to do. I got a new light which looks like it might belong in the dentist's office. Like if you need me to look at your tonsils, just come right over, I can do it. But it's very bright, and it does have a magnifier if you want to use it, but you don't have to. And I've been finding that just with that really super bright light, I can do the 40 count without magnification. So I don't know about you, but I'm like, let's just keep pushing the envelope. I can't be satisfied. No, I can't. So I was like, what if I did this badge on 46 count? So then it would be even like tinier, and it would be a very small thing to try on 46 count. And so I am. This is 46 count raw Bristol linen. I would not try 46 count dyed. Oof, I can't imagine that yet. But here is my stitching so far. Do you see how tiny it is? Will the camera even be able to tell? Oh yes, she can tell. There she goes. So this is as wide as it'll be. It's 3 trees wide, the like top part. Right. I was a little bit afraid that the Weeks Dye Works, like the cotton thread would fray too much on this super high count, for me, super high count fabric, but it really hasn't been a trouble. It's frayed maybe slightly more. I've been trying to do, I usually do the sewing method, but I've been trying to do a little bit more of the stabbing, because it seems to put less tension on the thread, and like it doesn't fray as easily when you just go straight up. You know, I don't know what that one's called, but the other way of stitching, the not sewing way. So I've been doing that a little more. I don't usually like to do that because it's more time consuming. But I have been doing a little bit more just because the thread, and then also this really tiny count is sometimes just easier to do that. It's harder to find those 2 little threads as you're stitching through. But yeah, I've been just started it, but I'm excited. It's so tiny. I saw somebody who had finished their Hawk Run Hollow, and it was enormous. I'll show you mine next week, but if you don't know what it is, it's like there's several stitcheries in this series, and they consist usually of almost all of them have a grid of like smaller motifs. And they're big. They're always a very sizable stitchery, right? But some people, I think as written, it's written on 40 count. But this person had completed theirs on, I want to say 14 count, Ada, and it was enormous. Like it was huge, huge. And in the comments, there's this, just like with crochet and knitting, that there feels like there's a little bit of friction, right? There's a little bit of friction between folks who like to stitch on Aida cloth and people who like to stitch on linen. I'm not saying that those are, you know, again, it's a Venn, there's an overlap, but it does seem like there's a little bit of like some snarkiness that can happen from that linen side. And so somebody asked in the comments, somebody asked like, why would you knit on Aida cloth? And I don't know that I don't think they were being snarky. I think they were maybe just new or something like that and just didn't know. But one of the comments, there were lots of good comments, people saying like, oh, it's easier for me to see. I don't have to have a bright light. Like it's easier for me to count. I can really enjoy my stitching this way, where I don't necessarily enjoy stitching on linen. You know, lots of great comments, lots of people saying I like both of them. But one of the comments was, I get a larger finished object. And I was like, I am in the opposite camp right now. Like, I want the smaller finished object. That was a lot to tell you that I wanted the smaller finished object. It's okay. It's okay. We're doing it. We're doing it. But yeah, that's where I am. And especially on this, I'm just like, oh, it's going to be so wee. I'm probably going to get done and go to do the finishing and be like, I have lost my mind. Because it would have been much easier to finish if this were slightly larger, but we'll see what happens. See what happens. She also has some like cute little, oh, maybe that's French knots. That's a clever way to do it, Stacey Nash, if that's what you've done. See, there's like these little, I don't know if you can see this, these little dots around the edge. Cross stitch has its own little world of finishing and the things you can put around the edges. There are like these little, you know, like the pom-pom trims. They have like mini pom-poms. They have like itty bitty rickracs. They have all sort of interesting things to do for like the edges of things. So they look a little bit more finished than if you just sewed them. And I thought, oh, where am I going to find it? That's the world's tiniest pom-pom. But looking at it, I think it is French knots. Wouldn't that be cute? I don't know, Stacey Nash. We're going to find out together. Oh my gosh, she just opened a store in Indiana. What? She did. If you go on her Instagram, you can see it. It's not near me. It's like an hour, a little bit over an hour, I think, away. Oh, north of me. But like, she has her own shop. What's that going to be like? It seems like it's more of like a home deck shop from what I saw, but maybe, who knows? Maybe it's just starting out. So yeah, that's cross stitch. And then okay, I had my lunch up here before I fell asleep. Maybe that's a telling thing. Whatever. So in knitting, I have picked up a project. Susan B. Anderson. Oh my gosh. Have you looked at her kits lately? Don't do it. Just don't do it. I kid you not. Like, just don't do it. She's got that advent kit, and there was another one. I'm not even going to think about what it was. There was a cute stocking kit, and there was literally another one. I'm not going to look at it again. I'm not going to look at it to tell you about it, because it was already hard enough not to buy it the first time. So stupid. Oh, my friends are totally here. We'll just keep going. So I picked up my Good Mouse, and I finished their overalls. Let me see if I can see on the if there's a picture. I know there's a picture on this image. There's a picture on this image. Really. So this is, they came in 3 colors. So this is like the cream off-white one. They are knit in her, it's not Wisconsin Woolens. What is it? It's the sport weight one, right? And so I have finished the overalls. Oh, wait, sorry. Okay, so here's the overalls. There's a little sweater that goes under the overalls, and then there's a little cardigan that goes over the overalls, and then there's a little hat. Okay? But so, okay, so see, these are the overalls, right? They are very cute. See, tail out of overalls. So cute, right? I had a little bit of trouble with my overalls because my waistband was too tight and my little moose was like, no. So I had to go back, take out the cast on, do a bind off essentially, because she was being too constricted. And I'm still thinking she might be too constricted, especially if there's a sweater that goes under here. But we'll figure it out. I mean, oh darn, what if I had to make another pair of tiny overalls? That would be the worst thing ever. Not. Okay, but say, like, do you see how cute? Susan, as always, everything is knit in the round. Wonderful directions, very clear. It's not like place the pocket. She actually tells you exactly where it should go, right? The best. She tells you exactly where the eyeballs should go. The cutest. But wait, are you ready for potentially the most charming thing? How does that make the cuteness like go up a good 30%? I'm not gonna lie. It makes the cuteness go up like 60% in my brain. How is that? I would have never thought to do that. Look how cute it is. Like, fine, great, right? Super cute. It's crazy. It's crazy, y'all. So again, that's the Good Mouse. She has several. There's the Good Bear. There's the Good Pig. And they're really fun to knit. I think These were knit on threes, US threes, and I'm a very tight knitter. I think the suggested were 5 and 3, I think. But mine were 3. Sorry, there's potentially a new neighbor and they might have a new dog. What's going on? Maybe they're visitors. They must be visitors. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. So they're not even like super tiny to work. And again, one of the great things about doing a toy, like lots of people don't think to necessarily do a toy with a woolen spun yarn because it's not as strong usually as a worsted spun yarn. And again, lots of times when you're doing toys, you're knitting at a tighter gauge. You might be putting more tension on your yarn. But the wonderful thing about them, about doing a toy with a woolen spun yarn, is you get to steam it or even wet block it. I think this is wet blocked if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly. I think I wet blocked it, the mouse itself. And that like just, again, fills up those little tiny holes that might exist in your knitting if you aren't knitting like at a bulletproof gauge. So it sort of makes itself work, right? Like you can knit it at a slightly looser gauge. You don't have to put as much tension on the yarn because the yarn is then going to bloom a little bit and you're going to get that fuller, like more dense effect without having to knit it at such a tight gauge. Oh, those are so many words I just said. But right. So yeah, good mouse. So cute. What else? Okay, that's all. Next time we'll talk about another update that's going to happen. I have finished a book about breathing. Guess what? I'm doing it wrong. Sorry, these people with the dog just left again. They're very confusing to me. I will say, oh my gosh, like not 2 minutes ago did I admit to you that I have been reading the Joe Pickett novels by C.J. Box, and they have been made into a television show. Joe Pickett is a game warden in Wyoming. I think that's right? And so, like game warden, right? Like there's going to be hunting. I'm assuming there's going to be like a more conservative vibe. And there has been. But I've still really enjoyed them. You know, there's been moments where I was like, oh, that's maybe a little, but it was fun, right? I literally just admitted to you that I was reading those and then I started the next one in the series. I can't remember which one. I think it's like 15 or something. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Like 1970s level racist characterizations about Antifa, like intersecting with Antifa. There's like this weird, like, I mean, there's always been like, again, like a sort of like anti-government vibe, right? Like, but just sort of in like your like 1980s way, right? But this one in the 2010s 20s way is hitting real different. real different. And so I just had to tell you that, like, if you have read them and you were like, or like you know somebody who read them or whatever and you were just like, what? Or if you were like, oh, maybe I'll try that out because it's a bunch of books I could read in a row and that's always fun. No. Just no. So anyway. So it was enough that it became unenjoyable. And I was like, oh, I had to mark that one as did not finish. Boo. But luckily, there's a ton of other great things to read, right? Nevada Barr, that's my ultimate favorite. She is a national park ranger. And that doesn't sound like the right word all of a sudden, but it's right? And each book is set in a different national park. Those are the best. The best. But there's also one written as in Maine, a Maine game warden. And I have just started that one again. Okay, one second. That one is a series by Paul Doiron. D-O-I-R-O-N. I feel like I've heard that word before. Now I suddenly can't. Well, surprise. I suddenly can't remember how to say it. That's what happens everything I do on this podcast. So far those have been, not riddled with weird Antifa conspiracy theories. Anyway. No, I'm just like, why did you say Antifa so weird? Whatever, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, I think that's all for this week. I hope you find so many wonderful things to be thankful for. I hope you get all of the connection that you need in the coming weeks. Yeah, I'll talk to you next time.